Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Progress with number 40 in a series Viewers Games. In number 39 I covered a game from Andrea from Italy, but I picked the wrong game because I had overlooked that he had sent me a second email with another game, and I promised I would make it up to him. This is what Andrea said in his email. Hi Rick, I have another game for you that may be helpful. It is better played than the previous one, so if you want to analyze one of them, I would like to see this one on your channel. So in the game I was black and my friend Meme was white. There was no time restriction, so we had plenty of time to think. I'd like to see if there was a refutation of the trap I set and in which my friend fell into. Well, we'll talk about that trap later, if it is a trap or not, but let's look at Andrea's game. His friend Meme was white, Andrea was black, so we're looking at the game from the black side, and Meme played d4, d5 from Andrea, f4, e6 and e3. White plays a Dutch stonewall setup, which is normally played on the black side, but here white plays that setup, which is perfectly fine, very robust. Bishop b4 check, bishop interposes, and another check. Giving checks whenever you can is not always good. In this case there's no harm done. It's not a great move because after g3 the queen has to go retreat, but first Andrea took on d2, an in-between move. It's check, so white has to take back, and then Andrea retreated his queen to e7, a3, b6, knight b3, and bishop a6, knight f3, and now Andrea took on f1. Took that bishop that has not made any moves yet. Normally not great to take a piece that has not moved, it will cost you some time. But in this case it makes some sense because the white bishop, white's king's bishop, is his good bishop, as it is on the opposite color of his central pawns. So it makes some sense to take that bishop off the board. Rook takes f1, knight f6, knight e5 and knight e4. That is the hole in white's position in this Dutch stonewall setup. Queen d3. Andrea developed his knight. Queen b5, pinning that knight. And now rook d8, which is the first mistake of the game. It's a mistake because of the fork. Knight c6 is forking queen and rook, so white wins an exchange. A better move instead of rook d8 would have been f6, kicking the knight back, and the game is about equal. After rook d8, white took his chance, Meme took his chance with knight c6, forking those two pieces. You have to save the queen. Meme took the rook, queen takes back, and white castled queenside, and black castled kingside. Knight e2. That knight was swapped. Rook takes back. And knight f6. That knight is again on its way to that very nice square on e4. c4. There goes the knight. That knight is very strong. Black can still hope for a good outcome. It's not clear why the rook is better than the knight here. Of course the rook is worth more. The rook is worth about 5 pawns, the knight is about worth 3 pawns. But it depends on the position. And in this position this knight on e4 is very, very strong. And the rook is not that strong yet. Rooks need open files, they need space. And for the moment the position is quite closed. None of the pawns have been swapped yet. So white is better. Because of the long run he should be able to open some lines for his rooks. But for the moment black has a very strong knight. Rook c2, saving that rook, and a6. Strange move, that pawn can just be taken, and that's what Meme does. And now h6. Meme took in the center, queen takes back, and there goes another pawn. Queen a2. Black is looking for counterplay against white's king, bringing his queen very close to that king. And here white's best move would have been queen c4, and the queens will be swapped because you cannot go to a1 with check, because then there is king c2 and your queen is trapped. This rook is protected by the queen, and you're going to lose your queen for a rook. So queen c4 would have swapped the queens, and then white would have a winning position with his extra material. But queen d3 was played, not a bad move. White is still much better. f5 protecting the knight, g4 from white, rook f7. Those rooks were traded. G takes f5, e takes f5, and white is still better in this position. He is, let's count the pawns, 6 pawns against 4 and an exchange, and now the rook on f1 has more potential. There are some open files. Yes, white's king is a bit drafty, a bit open, and that's not great with queens and knights on the board, but objectively white has a winning position. But here comes a very bad move, the biggest blunder of the game, and that is unfortunate for Mema. He played queen c2, and that's a big blunder. And the refutation was found by Andrea. He played queen a1 check. And I presume, looking at the game, the rest of the game, that this must be the trap that Andrea referred to in his email. But there's no way for white not to fall in the trap. White only has one legal move. The king cannot move. He has to interpose the queen. And then queen takes b1 check. King takes b1. And do you see the fork? The knight fork. There it comes. Knight d2 check. Picking up a full rook. So that was the trap. Queen a1 check. Forcing the exchange of queens. And then forking king and rook to win a full rook. So it was a trap. Well, maybe it was not a trap, because after queen c2 and queen a1 check, white really had no choice. King c2 was played, knight takes f1, king d3, and there goes a pawn, and not just a pawn, but that makes this pawn very strong, running to queen. White has a majority on the queen side, and black's king is far away, but if black just brings his king closer, brings his knight over, then he will very easily stop those 2 pawns from white. Also because he still has a pawn himself on that queen side. And let's see how he brings this victory home. White played b4, and actually here you can play b5, and that stops white in his tracks somewhat, but you don't have to. Knight g4 is also good, which was played in the game. a4 is going to try and make a passed pawn. Black brings his king over. Safety first. Of course you can start to run straight away with your own pawn, but safety first. You have to be patient. You shouldn't rush in winning positions, and Andrea plays that very well. King c4, king d7, king b5, attacking the pawn. Black just protects it. And there comes e5, d5, sorry, that's d5. Black takes another pawn. A check. King takes. King takes. Knight d5 check. King b5. And now, I think running with the h-pawn wins even quicker, because black can control white's queenside pawns. But knight c3 was played, which is also fine. Knight c3 check, king a5. He doesn't want to lose his a4 pawn. And there goes the pawn. b5 looks a bit scary, but it's not. King c7, b6 check, king b7. Now the king is in front of that runaway pawn. King b4 attacking the knight. Knight d5 check, anything wins here. King b5. Andrea took the pawn. a5. And you can give that pawn if you want. You can give that knight if you want, but Andrea does not want that. It makes sense. Plays his knight to d7. a6 check. King a7. King c6. Knight b8 check, and now the a6 pawn will fall because of king d5. Knight takes. King e6. And there goes h4, and that pawn is unstoppable. King takes, h3, king g4. No, you're not going to stop that pawn. h2, f5, h1 queen, and white had enough. He resigned. Thank you, Andrea, for sending me this game. Well played, and indeed I agree with you that this is a much better game than the previous one you sent, which we covered in video number 88. It was the viewers game number 39. Well played. It was an interesting game. You made a mistake, of course, and you know that with that knight fork on c6, but you fought back well, put your knight on that very strong square on e4, and then you had that trap, which was not really a trap after white blundered with queen c2, but you took your chance when it came, queen a1 check, and then you had that knight fork. And the endgame you played really well. That's quite instructive the way Andrea played it. Don't rush, safety first, make sure nothing funny is happening with those pawns on the queen side, and then once you have stopped those pawns, then you can start running with your own passed pawn. There was no need to rush, and Andrea did not do that. Well played, Andrea. Thank you very much for sending me this game, and I hope the Chess2Progress community enjoyed it. Before we go, I'm going to tell you about a live stream on the Lichess website, which I've been running on Chess2Impress. I've done 3. During November, I'm going to do them every Wednesday and Sunday at 7 p.m. GMT, which is 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. An hour of chess, playing a little tournament there. I'm thinking of doing the same for Chess2Progress. Of course, you're very welcome to join the ones on Chess2Impress. And on Chess2Progress, because it's aimed at more junior players, more improving players, I am thinking of doing a live stream, but then set a rating limit for Lichess of about 1500, for example. I may try that very soon. Keep an eye out for it. Hope you join me then, and then we can have a little tournament, and we don't have all these very strong players joining. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the Chess2Progress channel. Please leave a comment, and if you liked the video, it would be great if you could share it on social media. As I said, you may want to check my Chess2Impress channel. The link is in the description box. This is Rick for Chess2Progress. Thank you for watching.